The lights dimmed across the arena, and thousands of fans leaned forward in anticipation, waiting for the next scheduled match. The energy was already at a fever pitch, but nobody knew they were about to witness a debut that would flip AEW on its head. Suddenly, the Titantron flickered and a name appeared that no one expected: LeBrock. At first, the crowd thought it was some kind of parody or a teaser for another star. But when the camera zoomed in and the figure walked through the smoke, jaws literally dropped. It wasn't just anyone. It was Arissa LeBrock, daughter of martial arts legend and Hollywood action star Steven Seagal. Fans had heard whispers online, rumors about Seagal's daughter training in combat sports, but nothing had ever been confirmed. And now, in front of the world, she was here. Not for a cameo, not for a backstage skit, but to step directly into the ring under the bright lights of AEW. The moment her boots touched the steel steps, the entire arena erupted. Some fans cheered wildly, others gasped in disbelief, and a few shouted in shock, "No way! That's Seagal's daughter." Arissa carried herself with the same stoic intensity her father once brought to the screen. There was no flashy posing, no over-the-top theatrics, just a cold, focused expression, the kind of look that promised danger for anyone standing across from her. Commentators scrambled for words, voices trembling as they tried to explain what the audience was seeing. One announcer whispered, "If her fight style is anything like her father's, AEW isn't ready for this." Then the music cut. Silence. The spotlight locked on Arissa as she entered the ring. She didn't grab a microphone. She didn't bow to the crowd. Instead, she unzipped her jacket, revealing her fight gear, and pointed directly at the AEW banner above the stage. That gesture alone sent the fans into hysteria. This wasn't a one-night stunt. She was here to fight, and she was here to stay. The electricity in the building was unlike anything AEW had felt in years. Cameras caught stunned faces in the crowd, kids screaming into their phones, and grown adults with their hands on their heads. This wasn't supposed to happen. Wrestling insiders had predicted free agent signings, celebrity appearances, and even possible WWE crossovers, but nobody, and I mean nobody, had Steven Seagal's daughter walking into AEW on their bingo card. The first scene ended not with words, but with silence broken by deafening cheers. Arissa LeBrock's mere arrival had already rewritten AEW's history. And the chilling part? This was just the beginning. The bell hadn't even rung yet, but the atmosphere was already tense. Fans were chanting Arissa's name. Others were booing in disbelief, but everyone's eyes were locked on the ring. Then the unexpected happened. AEW officials announced her opponent, a top-ranked veteran, someone who had carried the women's division for years. It wasn't a soft debut. It wasn't a warm-up exhibition. AEW had thrown Seagal's daughter straight into the fire. As her opponent's music hit, the arena shook with cheers. This was a proven champion, someone who had beaten nearly every name that mattered. Most fans believed this would be a quick showcase. Arissa might get a few flashy moves in, but surely she'd be humbled by a seasoned pro. What nobody realized was that Arissa wasn't here for a feel-good cameo. She was here to dominate. The bell rang. The crowd exploded. And in a flash, Arissa dropped into a fighting stance that looked eerily familiar to anyone who had ever watched her father's martial arts films. Her footwork was measured, her arms steady, her eyes locked in. The AEW veteran smirked, brushing her off as a rookie, and lunged forward for a collar tie-up. But within seconds, the smirk vanished. Arissa countered with a brutal hip toss that looked more like a judo throw straight out of an action movie. The veteran hit the mat with a thud that echoed through the arena. The crowd roared. Commentators shouted over one another. "Wait, did you see that? That was textbook judo. She's not just here for show. She knows what she's doing." For the first time, fans realized this wasn't a Hollywood stunt. Arissa had real skill, years of training, and the ruthless efficiency of her father's discipline. The veteran scrambled to her feet, visibly shaken, and went for a strike-heavy offense. But Arissa blocked each one with chilling calmness, twisting out of holds and reversing positions like she'd been in the ring her whole life. Every move she executed wasn't just about flash, it was about control. She was dictating the pace, forcing the veteran to play defense. Midway through the match, chants of "Holy Zone" thundered across the arena. Every reversal, every slam, every strike Arisa landed made the crowd louder. AEW had delivered many shocking debuts over the years, but this one felt different. This wasn't just about a newcomer. This was about legitimacy. This was about someone walking in with the aura of a killer and making good on every ounce of hype. As the veteran tried a desperate top rope move, Arisa caught her midair and slammed her down with a devastating powerbomb. The ring shook. Fans were on their feet, screaming like they'd just witnessed history. Arisa didn't pin her opponent right away. She stood tall, glaring down with an intensity that silenced even the loudest critics. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, she planted her boot on her opponent's chest and counted along with the referee. 1, 2, 3. The match was over. Arisa LeBrock had shocked the world. AEW wasn't just introducing a new star. They had unleashed a storm that would forever change the women's division. The moment Arisa LeBrock's hand was raised in victory, the AEW arena turned into absolute chaos. Some fans erupted in cheers, others booed with rage, and a few just stood there stunned, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Within seconds, social media lit up like wildfire. Twitter, Instagram, Reddit. Every corner of the wrestling community was ablaze with one question. Who is this woman, and how did she just dismantle one of AEW's top veterans in her debut? Backstage, the locker room wasn't any calmer. Established stars were seen whispering among themselves, some nodding in respect, others clearly annoyed at the idea of an outsider stealing the spotlight. Wrestling is built on years of dedication, bruises, and sacrifices. And here was the daughter of a Hollywood legend walking in and making the entire roster look vulnerable. Commentators tried to hold back their shock on live TV, but even they couldn't hide it. "This isn't just a debut," one of them said breathlessly. "This could be the most dominant debut we've ever seen in AEW history." That single statement replayed across fan-made highlight reels all over YouTube and TikTok. Clips of Arisa's judo throws, her powerbomb finish, and her cold, intimidating glare began racking up millions of views within hours. But with hype came backlash. Hardcore wrestling purists accused AEW of pulling a stunt, saying that the company was just cashing in on the Seagal family name. Memes circulated, mocking her Hollywood connection, claiming she'd fade out within weeks. Yet, every time critics tried to downplay her performance, another clip of her flawless counters and devastating slams went viral. The footage didn't lie. She wasn't some pampered celebrity kid. She was a dangerous athlete who could back up every ounce of hype. In the days that followed, wrestling journalists picked apart her debut. Some argued she needed more time in the smaller circuits before AEW gave her the spotlight. Others claimed AEW had just discovered a once-in-a-lifetime crossover star, someone who could bring mainstream eyes to the product. The debates fueled endless podcasts, YouTube breakdowns, and Twitter threads. But all of it worked in Arisa's favor. The world wasn't just talking about AEW anymore. They were talking about her. Inside AEW headquarters, executives were already plotting her next steps. Merchandising ideas flooded in. T-shirts with slogans like Seagal's Storm and the LeBrock Lockdown. Promoters whispered about headlining events, cross-promotions, and even pay-per-view main events. The company knew it had struck gold, but they also knew they had to tread carefully. Too much too soon could kill the hype. Too little, and the buzz might fade. Meanwhile, Arisa herself stayed silent. She didn't give interviews, didn't post on social media, didn't even smile during backstage segments. That silence only made her more intriguing. Fans were desperate to hear her voice, to understand her mindset, but the lack of answers made the mystery even bigger. Was she playing the villain? Was she the anti-hero? Or was she just a wrecking force unleashed without explanation? Every unanswered question became fuel for curiosity. And in wrestling, curiosity is the most powerful hook of all. The aftermath of Arisa LeBrock's debut didn't just stay in the ring or on social media, it cut deep into the AEW locker room. Behind those steel doors, where respect and hierarchy are sacred, a storm was brewing. Veterans who had sacrificed years, sometimes decades, to climb the wrestling ladder looked at Arisa and saw a shortcut. To them, she wasn't a warrior forged in the fire of small promotions. She was a Hollywood heir given a golden ticket. And that resentment? It was real, raw, and dangerous. Some wrestlers openly welcomed her. They whispered that her name brought eyes to AEW that had never cared before. Big names from MMA, judo, and Hollywood were watching, and that meant pay-per-view buys, merchandise sales, and bigger contracts for everyone. "If she succeeds, we all succeed," one star was heard saying. To them, Arisa wasn't just a rookie. She was a business opportunity that could lift the entire company. But others weren't so kind. Rumors spread of cold shoulders in the locker room, veterans refusing to shake her hand, and quiet threats that she wouldn't last long if she didn't earn her place. The wrestling world has always been protective of its traditions. Newcomers usually endure grueling tests, long road trips, small crowds, humiliating losses before they ever see the spotlight. Arisa skipped all of that, and whether she deserved it or not, resentment was inevitable. One AEW insider leaked that a heated argument nearly broke out after her debut match. A top female veteran allegedly confronted her backstage, telling her flat out, "This isn't Hollywood, this is wrestling. You want respect? Prove it in here." The story spread across dirt sheets, YouTube channels, and fan forums, each retelling making the tension sound more explosive. Was it real? Was it exaggerated? Nobody could confirm, but the idea of a fractured locker room only added fuel to the hype. AEW's management, however, wasn't backing down. They doubled down on Arisa's star power. Cameras caught glimpses of her training backstage, effortlessly tossing male trainees in sparring sessions, further cementing her as someone not to be underestimated. Her quiet, deadly aura turned into a character of its own. She didn't have to scream into a microphone or cut a fiery promo. Her silence spoke louder than anything else. Fans began chanting her name at shows where she wasn't even scheduled to appear. But here's where things got even wilder. AEW executives allegedly started planning dream matches, pairing her against some of the company's most established names. Rumors of her facing Britt Baker, Jade Cargill, and even a crossover match with Ronda Rousey swirled online. Fans debated endlessly. Could she really hang with the best? Or would one veteran finally humble her and expose her as just another overhyped newcomer? The tension inside the locker room mirrored the energy outside of it, divided, unpredictable, and electrifying. Every whisper, every rumor, every cold stare added layers to her story. Whether people loved her or hated her, they couldn't ignore her. And in professional wrestling, indifference is death. Arisa LeBrock wasn't just alive in AEW. She was setting the place on fire. When Arisa LeBrock walked into AEW, she didn't just enter the squared circle. She walked straight into a media storm that few rookies could ever survive. The internet exploded within minutes of her debut, and the takes were as divided as the locker room itself. On Twitter, hashtags like Steven Seagal's daughter AEW and Arisa LeBrock trended worldwide. Clips of her brutal finishing move were reposted by sports pages, gossip blogs, and even mainstream outlets that usually ignored wrestling. Suddenly, AEW wasn't just a wrestling promotion, it was headline news. But with fame comes fury. Fans who had been loyal to AEW from the beginning saw her rise as a betrayal of the grind that defines pro wrestling. They wrote long threads accusing the company of selling out. "She's not AEW, she's Hollywood," one viral post said, racking up thousands of retweets. Others accused her of stealing opportunities from women who had fought for years in bingo halls and half-empty gyms. Yet, for every hater, there was a fan ready to defend her. Clips of her judo background surfaced, reminding everyone that Arisa wasn't just a celebrity kid, she had real combat skills. Training footage of her taking brutal slams, bleeding in sparring sessions, and working hours past midnight leaked out. That image of a spoiled starlet crumbled fast. Supporters pointed out that if she wasn't serious, she could have stayed in Hollywood or leaned on her father's name. Instead, she stepped into one of the toughest sports in the world. That alone, they argued, earned her respect. The debate spilled over into podcasts, YouTube breakdowns, and wrestling forums. AEW had struck gold without even trying. Every headline, positive or negative, kept her in the spotlight. Controversy wasn't hurting her. It was feeding her. Every insult made her stronger, every rumor made her more mysterious, and every argument made people tune in to see if she'd succeed or fail. Mainstream media joined the chaos. Entertainment shows called her Hollywood's next action star turned wrestler. Sports outlets compared her rise to that of Ronda Rousey in UFC. TMZ went digging into her past, resurfacing childhood interviews, red carpet appearances, and even photos of her father training her in martial arts as a kid. Suddenly, Arisa wasn't just a new wrestler, she was a story that transcended AEW. But while the headlines roared, AEW's creative team leaned into the firestorm. They positioned her not as a humble underdog, but as a mysterious disruptor who didn't need to beg for acceptance. Every promo, every vignette, every slow-motion replay of her in action was designed to make fans question, is she here to respect AEW's legacy, or rewrite it completely? And the craziest part? The backlash only fueled ticket sales. Fans who swore they hated her still lined up at shows, desperate to see her in action, whether it was to cheer or to boo. Because at the end of the day, love and hate both sell. The only thing that doesn't? Silence. And silence was one thing Arisa LeBrock never left behind. By the time the dust settled from Arisa LeBrock's first few appearances, one thing was certain. AEW was not the same company it had been before she walked through its doors. This wasn't just about one debut, one fight, or even one storyline. It was about momentum, perception, and the future of wrestling itself. Arisa had cracked open a new lane for AEW, a lane where mainstream recognition and wrestling tradition collided head-on. In the weeks following her shocking debut, attendance at AEW live shows spiked. Merch tables began stocking T-shirts with her name and catchphrases before she had even cut a promo. Online searches for AEW doubled in some regions, particularly in markets where wrestling usually struggled to grab attention. New viewers who had never tuned into a wrestling program before were suddenly watching clips, asking questions, and buying tickets. Not because of AEW's established stars, but because of Steven Seagal's daughter. That kind of crossover attention? It was priceless. Behind the curtain, AEW executives wrestled with a question they had never faced before. How much of the company's future could they put on the shoulders of someone so new? Some insiders argued she should be fast-tracked to the top of the women's division. Others pushed for patience, warning that rushing her could backfire. The debate was fierce, but one thing was undeniable. Every decision involving Arisa was bigger than wrestling. It was business. Fans, too, were divided but hooked. The debates grew louder. Was she the savior AEW needed to break through mainstream noise, or just a passing storm? Entire Reddit threads dissected her matches frame by frame. YouTube channels built their content solely around her, creating highlight compilations, speculation videos, and even fan-made storylines. She had become the heartbeat of AEW's most important conversation. Where does wrestling go from here? And Arisa herself? She stayed silent. No fiery press conferences, no angry responses to critics, no online rants, just the work. In the ring, she doubled down, training harder, taking bigger risks, and showing up with an intensity that silenced doubters one by one. Every slam, every strike, every victory added to the legend. By saying less, she made fans want more. The final straw that sealed her impact came when whispers of WWE's interest began to circulate. Suddenly, AEW realized just how valuable she truly was. If they lost her, it wouldn't just be a storyline loss, it would be a cultural one. Arisa wasn't just wrestling anymore. She was leverage, power, and the future. And that's why, no matter where her career goes from here, one truth is undeniable. AEW will never be the same. Her presence shook the foundation of the company, forced veterans to adapt, and made fans around the world rethink what it means to be a star. Whether you love her or hate her, you can't ignore her. And in professional wrestling, that's the ultimate victory. So, Was Arissa LeBrock the spark AEW needed, or the storm that could tear it apart? One thing's for sure. The wrestling world will be talking about this forever. If you want more shocking stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us, because the next twist is coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.